Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We're continuing the practical Tawheed series, and this will be about the worship of female deities and the stars and how this relates to our everyday situation here. Because a lot of times we'll read these things in the Quran about the worship of idols or the female deities or worship of angels or the worship of whatever the people are worshiping, right? And then sometimes, though, we don't know how to bring it, modernize it into our reality. We think that a lot of times this stuff is so far from us that we're just talking about people who existed at one time, they don't exist anymore. But literally, this same stuff that's being worshipped back then, we can find the same forms of it today with different names. And actually, it may be being done differently, but it's the same concepts. So we'll begin. Firstly, we got to understand this issue of paganism, right? Exactly the actual sin of it. We're going to remind ourselves of that. Well, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, "Inna Allah la yaghfiru an yushrika bih, wa yaghfiru ma duna dhalika liman yasha, wa man yushrik billah faqad adalla dalalan ba'ida." And Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, He says, "Verily Allah forgives not the sin of setting up partners in worship with Him." So the first thing we understand is that paganism or polytheism, Allah doesn't forgive it. The individual who dies upon it is not forgiven. Again, the individual who dies upon it is not forgiven. Okay, so we're not talking about someone who's alive and then he makes repentance for being a pagan and he becomes a Muslim. That's removed from him. We're talking about the individual who goes into his grave believing that Allah has a son, or believing that there's more than one God, or worshiping idols, or worshiping the creation, which is the greatest breaking of the greatest right to be broken. And He says, but He forgives whom He wills. Sins other than that. Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh. What's going on, Mike? So we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive anything other than that. Now, sometimes we forget how bad paganism is. Anything less than paganism. It could be murdering children. It could be murdering it could be anything you can imagine. But paganism is worse than it. Because the greatest right is the right of the Creator. And this is what we forget sometimes. Because a lot of times it's shock and awe. For example, I come and I say, this person will say that Allah has a son. We won't budge. But if I say this person slept with his mother, oh man, for real? Because we're not in tuned to hate the worst crime ever committed. We're in tune to everything else. And that's part of the problem. So whoever sets up partners in worship with Allah, he has indeed strayed far away. So the farthest astray you can be is to say there's more than one God. Now, we're getting into now the female issue of people saying there's female gods. And we're going to show that this has always been going on since ancient times. Where Allah Azza wa Jalla says, إِن يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِهِ إِلَّا إِنَاثًا وَإِن يَدْعُونَ إِلَّا شَيْطَانًا مَرِيدًا. Well, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He mentions, and He says, and those who worship other than Allah invoke nothing but female deities besides Him. And they invoke nothing but shaitan, a persistent rebel. And I remember Sheikh Muqsim Maluk, Hafizahullah Ta'ala, when he was explaining this ayat to us. One of the benefits that I got from this ayat is, number one, this issue of people worshiping female deities. I never thought about it. But we can bring that home right into our home right now. We can bring that into our reality right here in America. Look at the Catholic Church. All the stone statues of angels that they're worshiping are made to look feminine. And we know this existed because we know Allah mentions in the Quran that the people who worship call the angels the daughters of Allah. So this reality of us saying, well, female gods, well, people worship Jesus here. He's male. Well, what about the people who make angels look female with golden hair and harps, with white robes on, looking like women, looking like white women? I mean, this is reality. Okay, but this is what they do. So it's not far-fetched. They've been doing the same stuff. Okay, we have from the Arabs before the Prophet Sallam before they converted to Islam, we had them calling Allah Samada, Uzza, with Tamarabuta, using female versions of Allah's name for their gods. This is not far-fetched. This has been going on. So we know people are calling upon female deities. Okay, this is reality. We can go into Rome, Hella, and some of them other guys that were females to live on Mount Olympus. These are female deities. We can go right to the Hindus. They got Vishnu with all these arms. She female. A lot of the guys, the 350 guys they worship in India, a lot of them are females. Okay. We even have some place in the world where they actually worship in the private parts of men and female and different things like that. Okay. We also have in the so-called conscious community, the Pan-Africanist community, where the black woman is God. Okay. They call her the earth. They call her my earth. She's Mother Earth and all this craziness. Okay. So that's right here at home. People are still worshiping female deities. So let's not think it's far-fetched. It's happening right here in our own backyard, and it's been happening. Okay, so and also all of this goes back to being who? As also he said, they're only worshiping shaitan. Okay, they're only worshiping the shaitan. So that means that everything that's being worshipped other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in reality shaitan. Either shaitan himself is being worshipped, as the Luciferians do and the satanic cults do, or is shaitan called them to some type of symbolism or some type of concept that he has whispered to them or revealed to them. And we know who does that in Surah Al-An'am, where he says the shaitan, the shayateen, what? They reveal concepts or religions to their awliya from amongst mankind. So we understand that shaitan is the source of all the shirk and kufr. So anything is what idol, people worship a sun, all of it is shaitan, as this ayat clearly states. And we bring another ayat in Surah Al, I think it's Sabba. I like to bring this ayat to at least establish my point. Where Allah Azza wa Jal, he makes a statement that Sheikh Muqsim Ma'luk brought to me one time. We were going over this ayat, and it was very interesting because this ayah was very interesting to me that I just thought that we would bring it out. Be patient with me. I just couldn't remember the ayah in my head, but I do know what surah is in. Anyway, subhanallah wa bihamdi. May Allah forgive me. But anyway, the ayat is in Surah Al-Sabba, where Allah Azza wa Jal, he actually mentions that the angels are going to be asked about, oh, these are the people that worship you. Okay? And they're going to say that they were worshiping the jinn. And it's funny because Sheikh Muqsim Ma'luk, he brought out this ayat. One of the benefits that he brought out this ayat is saying that when the angels are going to say they were worshiping the jinn in response to Allah's question, what is he talking about? What is he talking about? Because people worship different things. And the fact that the angels pointed out they're only worshiping the jinn or the shayateen from amongst the jinn shows us clearly that people are worshiping stone, trees, the sun, the moon, the stars, all these different things. The angels put out, they still called it the jinn. What is that? That shows us that people are worshiping the shayateen knowingly and unknowingly. So the Tawheed is shaitan. No matter what form he may come in, it's all of it goes back to being shaitan, who is being worshipped other than Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay? So that's that ayat. And one of the things that the Shaykh is going to bring, Ismail Abdul Ghani rahimahullah ta'ala, when he says, مفهوم الآيات أن المشركين كصاري جهدهم مراقب الإناث وصرف محمد إليهن بجميع القوة وتمثلهن ولهج بأسمائهن لجلب المنافع ودفع المضار. ليس هناك أنثى ولا ذكر، إنما هو تحليق في عالم خيال وتصوير من تسويلات الشيطان. In meaning, the Sheikh is saying that the mushrikeen, understand from this ayat, that the mushrikeen, their best efforts, right, to care for these these female deities, right, that they would take all the important matters back to these deities, all of it, right? And what they would do is that by mentioning the names over and over again, like Samada, like Uzza, all these different names, that all they did is take names of Allah and add the Tamarabulta on it to make it feminine. Okay? And they believe that repeating these names over and over and over again, or repeating these names or saying these names, it's helped them from, it gave them benefit, brought a benefit to them and protected them from an evil. Okay? So let's bring that home. People do it today. In Jesus' name, amen. It's no different. We got to understand this is no different. The stuff that's going on in America is no different. People are doing the same thing today. Our people are doing the same exact thing. The problem is we think that this stuff is just ancient, but we don't know how to place it in the concepts of today. Because Allah didn't just say the Quran to 1440 years ago to the Prophet ﷺ, then he said it to his people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this deen is complete. And the Prophet ﷺ was the last messenger. There was no messenger after him. No matter what people want to say. Anybody who claims messenger after the Prophet ﷺ is a liar and a dajjal. Okay? So this last message came down to mankind to correct what? To correct the understanding of mankind, who his God is and who isn't his God. So we understand from that. So, and he says, Laysa hunak untha wala dhakar. In the Sheikh, he said, but there is no female God, right? Or any male gods. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't never say he had a sex. Now he's going to make him like his creation. Allah uses the word huwa for himself, which is masculine. Okay? So then he says, he said, but this is not real. It's imaginary. So again, all the gods that's being worshipped other than Allah are imaginary. It's like, it's no different than some kid somewhere having an imaginary friend. No different. No different than going to the suburb. You see some white kid with imaginary friend. I'm just saying, or some kid, it ain't, I'm just saying it ain't no different. There's no different. That's the same thing. Drop Dead Fred. Remember that movie, Drop Dead Fred? It's the same thing. I'm telling you. The Easter Bunny, all of that, it's all the same. People believing that they can pray to Jesus and he hear him is no different than believing in the Easter Bunny. No different. No different believing in Santa Claus. People praying, thinking that these gods can answer them and these gods exist. That's no Hindu, the Buddhist, all that is no different than believing in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. It's no different. It's all khiyal. It's imaginary. Okay? So then the Shaykh, he goes on and he says, وَهَذَا الَّذِي قَدْ يَتَسَلَّطُ عَلَى إِنسَانٍ وَقَدْ يَأْتِي بِالْعَجَائِبِ الْمُخَارِقِ لَيْسَ إِلَّا شَيْطَانٍ. He says, and this is what has conquered the minds of the human being. And Shaitan is the one that comes with this stuff. What comes with these wonders or these supernatural events. For example, people worship Mary, right? Alayhi salam, Jesus' mother, right? What they call the mother of God. Wa'udhu billah. May Allah curse those who lie on Allah. I mean, so you actually had statues of Mary crying before, blood or crying real tears. Who's doing that? And all of that is because what? To get them to keep on following that. And Allah allows that to happen to keep leading those people astray. Or you have in Egypt, when I was in Egypt, they had actually literally supposed to be a shape of Mary came out the sky and landed on top of the oldest church in Egypt. This happened. And oh, look at this miracle. It was nothing but a shaitan. That's all it was. Nothing but a shaitan. And to get the people all revved up to keep following behind these shirk and kufr. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, infinite wisdom allows these things to happen. Because Allah says, Yudillu man yasha wa yahdi man yasha. Allah leads astray whom he wills and guides whom he wills. Plain and simple. It's not in our hands. So إليه وتصل نظورهم وقرابينهم وهؤلاء يقدمونها إلى هذه النعت المتخيلة يتلقفها شيطان فلا ينتفعون بها. And he says that with that being said, when that happens, these so-called miracles happen at these particular places or things, then the people start to do vows and bring their animals to slaughter at these particular places. That's the first thing you see happen, don't you? That's how you know that it's shaitan. As soon as something like that happens, man, people go there, they crying at the place, they bringing animals to slaughter there, they rolling in it, they rubbing on it. This is what they doing. That's what they doing. So, and this is what shaitan, he says, and they do this to these female deities that are imaginary. It's imaginary. And how do we know? Let's bring this home. What I just said, we said, oh, when people go to a place and they start worshiping it and they start thinking it's a place of barakah, we don't do that's America. Well, hold up. When people get shot and killed in the hood, what's the first thing they do? Take candles and teddy bears to the place. Oh, the person's soul is still here. He know he can hear us. Man, they go there, that pole become a shirt pole. Come on, y'all, let's be real. I grew up in Philly. I know I see many of them poles. You might find 3 or 4 of them poles on one block. Let's keep it real. And you got the teddy bears, man. It be raining and snowing on that stuff. The teddy bears look nasty. The candles all waxed all everywhere. Cards, and it looks a mess. But people still go there and they believe this person can hear their talking to them. To the point where people are taking gifts to the pole. That's no different than what the mushrikeen were doing in the past. Just because they done modernized it, it's no different. It's the same shirk, the same action that was being done then is being done now. And let's keep it real. And Shaitan done broadcast this, and they ain't even benefiting from it. All you doing is spending bread. You done went out and bought this big teddy bear you could took home to your wife. You done dropped it on a pole. Okay? You took the candles, took it to a pole. We could put them candles in the house, say electric go out. Because I know I grew up in the hood. Electric went out. You could took that home. But instead, you done took it to a pole. Think about that. Anyway, the Sheikh, he goes on, Sheikh Ismail Abdul Ghani rahimahullah ta'ala. He says, تَغْرِيلَ خَلْقِ اللَّهِ بِأَمْرِ الشَّيْطَانِ. And the changing of the creation of Allah with the command of shaitan. وكأعلن الشيطان أمام الله أنه لا بد أن يتخذ من عباده نصيبا. And shaitan, remember, shaitan actually made a promise to Allah after Allah allowed him to live forever until the day of judgment, that he would take a portion of the human being and mislead them. He said that straight up. Now imagine the guts that it took to say that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why we're dealing with a real enemy. Because you're dealing with an enemy who has no problem going the distance. You understand what I'm saying? Every human being has limits. But Shaitan, I don't think he has none. So at the end of the day, right, Shaitan is clearly coming out and saying how he wanted to lead mankind astray. And what's some of those ways that he does that? It says, يَضِلُّهُمْ وَيَمَنِّيهِمْ يَعْمُرُ بِالْيَبْتَكُونَ أَذَانَ الْأَنْعَامُ تَقَرُّبًا إِلَيْهِ. For example, and then we're going to make this, he's mentioning something that we may not do today, but I'm going to give you something that we do. Okay. He says that people are led astray in their desires and wishes, with the desires and their wishes, right? And one of the things that people used to do in the past, when they would slit the ear of the cattle, right, to make it look different, right? And to be honest with you, people mess around and do that stuff today. Cutting the tails off the dog, clipping the ear of the dog. They may not be doing it for religious reasons, but people do mess around with animals. Okay? And another thing that people do, you have people doing religious stuff, cutting parts of their body off. You got people beating themselves with chains. I mean, this stuff isn't new. Okay? And the same stuff is happening today. We just got to look around and say, well, wait a minute. We are doing the same thing. It's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun. There's no new shirk. I'm going to keep telling you that. There's no new shirk because you haven't had the new messenger. The fact that there's no new messenger and will never be, that lets me know that shirk will always be the same. Shirk is not changing. It ain't going nowhere. It's the same thing. We got to stop making up new shirk. This is shirk now. That is shirk now. Show me the shirk of the ancients. What's the shirk that Allah is talking about in the Quran? The shirk of the ancients. Because that's the shirk of today. Not unless you're talking about some new shirk. You got to give me a new messenger. So to deal with that shirk. Okay? So يدخل في ذلك كل إشعار لحيوان يقرب إلى إله أو إلهة قد وعدهم شيطان بأنه يأمرهم يغيرون خلق الله بتقرير دينه بالشرك وابتداع. Now, we see that a lot of the religions, right, on the earth, the ways, whatever people have, the beliefs, animals are a big deal. Animals are part of the sacrifice, even in Islam. Okay? So to take animals and make them the signposts of worship is an act that Allah made specifically for himself. To take animals and to now use those animals in sacrifice or rituals to a particular god or goddess, these actions are only for Allah, but we see people doing this for their gods and goddesses. We clearly see this happening. Okay? And the funny part is that the greatest of the takrir, of the change that we see happening today amongst the Muslims, is the changing of Allah's religion, adding it to its shirk and bid'ah. That's the greatest thing. What we're watching right now, we're watching the Muslims add to Allah's deen, shirk and innovation, paganism and things that are not from it, terrorism, worship of the graves, saying there's other prophets, okay, raising people above their status, okay, saying Allah is everywhere, taking away, stripping Allah of his names and his attributes, all this stuff, Shi'ism, stuff happening in Iran, Iraq, all types of crazy innovation, all types of crazy disbelief that we see happening, but we see people changing the religion of Allah. When Allah says, "Inna deena inda Allahi Islam," that the religion of Allah is Islam, not Islam's. When Allah says, when he says, the people from Dhulumat ila Nur, Allah mentions Dhulumat. He makes darkness plural and light singular. Because the light is only one, and darknesses are many. Anything that is not Islam, mean according to what Allah said, his messenger said, and what the companions have gathered upon, the Salaf have gathered upon, anything outside of that is darkness. When you're dealing with religious beliefs and concepts, anything outside of those sources is darknesses. We're not talking about knowledge of how to build a television, how to use computers, how to build a car, how to build a house. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about religious knowledge and religious system that's in place that Allah sent down. That's the only light on the earth. Anything outside of that is darknesses, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Judaism, whether it's Buddhism, whether it's Confucianism, whether it's Jainism, whether it's Hinduism, whether it's 5%ers, whether they call themselves Muslims, whether it's Hebrew Israelites, running around talking about they the lost tribe of Israel, but guys don't even know their fathers or their grandparents. They running around talking about we lost tribe of Israel. And that, that's we gotta, that's what I'm saying. So all of that is darknesses. All of it. So that is the greatest of change. Now we get into the worship of the stars. Because a lot of times, though, we don't think this happening either. But we're going to show you where this is happening today. Sheikh Ismail Abdul Ghani rahimahullah ta'ala, he says in his chapter, I'tiqadu ta'thiru fi anwa'i al-kawakib fil alam. He says the belief in those who believe in the effect of the stars, the moons, or the planet in the earth. Wa ishrakum billah. He says that is paganism, in the worship of other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he starts with the hadith, Akhraju Shaykhan. The Shaykhan is Bukhari and Muslim. And Zayd ibn Khalid al-Juhayni radiyallahu anhu, قال صلى بنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم صلاة الصبح بالحديبية على إثر السماء كانت من الليل فلما انصرف أقبل على الناس فقال. He says that the Prophet ﷺ prayed with them the morning prayer when they were in Hudaybiyah, right? And it was nighttime. And the Prophet ﷺ turned to the people and he said to them, هل تدرون ماذا قال ربكم? And he said to the Sahaba who were here, he says, do you not know what your Lord has said? قالوا الله ورسوله أعلم. And they said, Allah and his messenger knows best. قال أصبح من عبادي مؤمن به وكافر به. He says, some of my slaves have rose this morning, believers in me and disbelievers in me. Okay? فأما من قال مطرنا بفضل الله ورحمته. And whichever one of them has said that the rain has fallen upon us from the kindness of Allah towards us in his mercy, فَذَلِكَ مُؤْمِنٌ بِهِ. And for he is, or they, or that is belief in me. وَكَافِرٌ بِالْكَوَاكِبِ. And he's a disbeliever in the stars or the planets. Right? وَأَمَّا مَنْ قَالَ مُطِرُنَا بِالنَّوْءِ. And the one who says that it is rainy because of the movements of the planets or the phases of the moon or the stars, كَذَا فَذَلِكَ كَافِرٌ بِي وَمُؤْمِنٌ بِالْكَوَاكِبِ. And that one is a disbeliever in me and a believer in the stars or those celestial movements or bodies. Okay? A lot of times we'll jump and say, well, wait a minute, ain't nobody worshiping stars. That's what you call horoscopes. Oh, they worshiping the stars. That ain't, that it's called Cancer, Sagittarius, I don't know the other, Virgo, the Mayflower. I don't know the name of the stuff. Don't get me to going on and on, but I'm just saying. So, and we know that the people believe that the movement of the stars and the planets have an effect on the weather. People believe that. And don't say we don't have that here. It's called Mother Nature, they call it. Don't say it. Falling stars. We got that from Disney growing up. Wishing on a falling star. We make a wish. Carrying on. That stuff is happening right now. Open up any newspaper in America right now. They got the horoscopes going for you. They got it going on for you. And you open up there and it's the horoscope is right there. Okay? And the crazy part is, all we have to do as Muslims is see what the Sharia say about the stars. There's only 3 usages for them, according to the Sunnah. Okay? It says the stars are for guidance, to travel. Okay? So when you're in a place, you're trying to figure out where things are, that's what Harriet Tubman used it. She used the stars, the Underground Railroad, to get around. Okay? People on ships, they used it. You know, you get lost at sea, you're like, okay, what a Big Dipper. With the northern star, the western star, they use it, they locate it, boom, boom, they start going directions, right? We have that. Okay, also a defense against what? The falling star, the shooting star is what? Being thrown at the devils. That's another reason in Sharia that the stars are used for. And last but not least is to beautify the heavens. And we have that from the Sharia about what stars in these celestial bodies are used for. Okay, and we don't go beyond that. And we know that the stars and the moons and all those things go through phases and movements. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, okay, and he says the moon, we have decreed for it movements and phases. So we know that the celestial bodies move around. And we know that they have phases they go through. But these phases have no effect on what happens in the earth. Or somebody died and somebody see a big star in the sky, or somebody just died, or somebody important died. That's what we believe. That's what we believe. We go talk to these people and they tell us you're a Cancer. Then somebody says, oh, you must be inquisitive. Oh, you sneaky because you're a Cancer. What? Excuse me? Excuse me? Because they're trying to tell you that you have the personality of that celestial body. Where you get it from. Because Allah already told us what stars are used for. But man comes along and Shaitan whispers to him some other stuff. Let's continue. Okay. He says, مغز الحديث أن من اتقد للنجوم تعثير في العالم. He said, from the meaning or significance or the purpose of this hadith is that we know that there are people who believe that the stars or the celestial bodies have an effect on the earth, whether it's be earthquakes, whether when it's going to rain, or whether it's who lives and who dies. Okay, these types of things, they believe that these celestial bodies have an effect on. Okay, or the celestial bodies can tell you what's going to happen in the future. So you're going to meet a tall, dark stranger. And this is funny part. You know, they tell you a Cancer, you're going to meet a tall, dark stranger or a brunette or something, right? You get that one thing out of it, but then everything else surrounding it wasn't even true, but you never catch that. You just catch the fact that you're going to meet, because the jinn don't do that. The jinn do get secrets, and they come down and it sounds like crackling in the air of the soothsayer. So they do get some things, and they're the soothsayer, but they surround it with lies. So even though you're being told, you get everything else was a lie except the fact you're going to meet a brunette. Now you meet the brunette on the sub. Oh man, that's soothsayer, but nothing else happened he said was going to happen. You don't look at that. You don't look at that. But this is how the shayateen play games. وَمَا يَحْدَثُ فِيهِ مِنْ حَوَادِثٍ كَانَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ مِمَّا كَفَرَ بِهِ. He says, so clear from this hadith is that the person who believes that these celestial bodies have an effect on the universe, on what happens in the earth, he said, then clearly this person has disbelieved in Allah. Because Allah is the only one who has the abilities to bring about effects in the universe by his decree, not by the moving of celestial bodies. Because the celestial bodies only move around because of his will. لا تسجدوا للقمر ولا تسجدوا للشمس ولا للقمر واسجدوا لله إن كنتم إياه تعبدون. So do not bow to the sun or to the moon, but posture to Allah who created them, if you do worship him. That's clear ayah in the Quran. But people are bowing down to the planets. And we know that this worship of the stars, celestial bodies, knew Ibrahim's people, the people of Mesopotamia. It's what they were doing, worshiping the stars. So this is nothing new. Human beings have passed on this heritage of shirk and kufr from generation to generation. So the person is a disbeliever in Allah and a worshiper of the stars. Well, how do we know that? Because you're giving stars. This hadith is also a proof that just believing something is divine is worship. The actions are worship too, but the belief itself is an act of worship. This is what I'm trying to explain to people. This is what I think we miss. To believe that something has characteristics that belong to Allah is worship, even if a person never prayed to it. Okay? The actual aqidah of it, the actual belief system itself, is ishraq, is paganism, because you believe that something else has qualities or abilities that only belong to Allah. That itself is worship. And the actions that come from that are a result of that belief, meaning slaughtering, praying, submission, being scared of it. All of that are results of a belief. But the belief itself has to be there to get the results. The same thing with us, with Allah. We worship Allah because we know that Allah has these abilities and these characteristics. So Allah has these abilities and these characteristics. It brings about what? A certain belief, right? But it brings about a certain amount of actions. This is why Allah always in the ladina amanu wa amilu salihat. This is why he says those who believe, those who have iman wa amilu salihat, and then do actions. Why? Because the actions are a result of a belief. The belief itself is the source. The actions come out of that. This is why we believe as Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the iman is what? Actions of the heart, statement of the tongue, and actions of the what? Limbs. Because actions are a result of a belief. They're a result of a belief. And the same thing with the kuffar. He says, وَمِنْ عَزَّ كُلَّ مَا يَحْدِثُ فِي الْعَالَمِ مِنْ خَيْرٍ وَالشَّرٍ مِنْ حَوَادِثِ عَمُورِ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَحْدَهُ كان عند الله من عباده مقبولين الذين تبرؤوا من عبادة النجوم والكواكب. He says, so anybody who believes that the actions that happen on the earth, from good or evil, big or small, are from what Allah has commanded and under his control, then this person is from those whom Allah has chosen, and he's from his chosen slaves. And he has freed himself from the worship of the stars, and the body, the planets, and the celestial bodies. Now, one of the things, how is this considered to be worship? We'll say this again. How is this considered to be worship? To worship stars and the celestial bodies? What's the concept of it, or one of the concepts of it? The Sheikh Ismail Abdul Ghani, rahimahullah ta'ala, again, he was born in India. He's one of the Indian scholars who, for some reason, we just don't know too much about. I got a theory on that, but I'm gonna leave that alone. But anyway, they have dozens and dozens of books, Indian scholars, on what Ilah is, what a Tawheed is, what's the meaning of La ilaha illallah, what's divinity, what the names attribute of Allah. I mean, they have dozens and dozens of books of Ahlul Sunnah amongst the Indian scholars from hundreds of years ago till now. But for some reason, we don't take the advice of the Abbas when he said we should be studying these books in the masjids of Ahlul Sunnah. But he said it in 1985. And may Allah make it easy. But anyway, he says, وَقَدْ دَلَّ حَدِيثُ عَلَى أَنَّ إِمَامِ بِأَنَّ مِنْ سَاعَاتٍ مَا تَأْتِي بِسَعْدٍ مِنْهَا مَا يَأْتِي بِالنَّحْسٍ سوال منجمين من أن سعد ونحس ائتماع على ما يخبرون به من الشرك فإن لها صلة بالنجوم وإيمان بالنجوم وتحذيرها من خصائص عبادته. Check this out. The Sheikh said also this hadith is a proof that people have iman in what they call this thing like time, right? They go ask soothsayers or palm readers about the time of happiness and the time of, I guess what they say, being unlucky or some evil thing's going to happen, right? All right. They go to these people and they ask them, and the person responds based on his star configuration, meaning he's a Cancer, he's a Taurus, they ask them that stuff first. All right. And because they believe that astrologists believe they can read the stars and figure out when something good going to happen to you and something's bad going to happen to you. Are you going to be happy or sad? Let's stop there. These are detailed information that only a deity has possession of. So number one, the first thing is that now you have said that this soothsayer has the ability that only belongs to Allah, making him a Tawheed. And he's pleased with you believing that about him. That makes him Tawheed. Why? Because now you're to apply the system, the religious belief system of divinity and knowledge of the unseen. Those are that remedy. And you place it upon this soothsayer. This soothsayer stepped into the realm of being a Tawheed. You made him Ilah. Because anytime you give any portion of attribute or characteristics to other than Allah, you made that particular thing a Tawheed. Plain and simple. It's not debatable. Now, so you're worshiping him. They're worshiping the magicians, the soothsayers, the palm readers, the tea leaf readers, and the astrologers, and all these other people. They're worshiping. Okay? So, and also, they're giving stars attributes and characteristics that only belong to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Okay? And they're using the stars, other than the three reasons that Allah said they're for. Allah didn't say the stars are for finding out somebody's happiness or sadness or what's going to happen in the future. Allah never told you that. Allah never revealed that. He never created the stars for that usage. And he never gave you permission to use the stars in that manner. So, and he says that, so then people, they lean on what the information they get from these particular people. They live their lives on. I know people right now, as soon as they get up in the morning, they open up that newspaper to see what the astrologers are talking about. Let's keep it real. Man, listen, y'all. You grew up in a home. You grew up, and who ain't grew up in an average black home? Don't front. You grew up in a black home where our mothers and our aunts looked at them horoscopes and tried to play the number from whatever they learned from it. Don't front like you ain't grow up around. Don't front. Don't front. They open up the horoscope, they read it, and whatever number they saw, they said, I'm going to play the number today. That's the number I'm going to play. Let's keep it real. The date of the horoscope, man, listen, I seen family members do it. They look at the number of the horoscope, they get the horoscope, and then they say, oh, girls, look at that horoscope right there, June 3rd, 19th, da, 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 da. They go play the number with that. They go right to the bookie and play the number. Let's keep it real. I'm just trying to bring it home so we can understand how this thing works. Because I don't like being abstract. I like showing us how this stuff applies to us. Because this thing got to be practical. Who was applying to? And we think, no, it's talking about us too. Human beings ain't no different here or in India. Just because we do it differently don't mean we're not doing it. Because we definitely doing it. Okay, we definitely doing it. Okay, so and so this is shirk. This is shirk, because what you're doing is that number one, you're using a religious system or a religious application that Allah revealed for Himself, and you're placing it in the wrong place. You're placing it upon the creation. Okay, so that's where shirk at. Because shirk is what? To believe that other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is divine and has attributes of divinity and characteristics of divine nature, and then to do actions that go along with you believe that something is divine. That's basically what shirk is. That's what it is. It's a belief and an action. It's a belief that something is divine other than Allah, what goes along with divinity, and then it's the actions that go along that are a repercussion or comes out of that belief. When those two things together, if it's placed upon other than Allah, then this is shirk. And that's what shirk is. That's the nitty-gritty of what shirk is. I want everybody to understand that, inshallah. That we got to stop running around trying to figure shirk out. Shirk is simple. What do you believe as a Muslim? What do you do as a Muslim? Now, okay, your beliefs and what you do as a Muslim every day, right? That's part of you being a Muslim, the beliefs and the actions, right? Take that and place it on creation. That's shirk. Let's make it simple. Let's keep it real. That's all it is, y'all. All these terminologies, all these names that we use and throwing around, it's confusing us. Because we don't know how to use them anyway. And they're not a proof in Islam anyway. We don't have to use them if we don't want to. But what we do have to understand is concepts. We have to understand the conceptual understanding of what shirk and Tawheed is. And once you get that, you're fine. So to end it, he said, because this is, you're connecting yourself to the stars and not Allah. Right? So the stars become your God. The celestial bodies become your God. Okay? They become your God. And we see this happening all over the world with this fake conscious woke dudes running around talking about they panic. All that stuff is this. The black woman's gone and the stars, the Amun Ra and Egypt. And it sounds good. The vocabulary is real big. The vocabulary is big. But they ain't saying nothing. But what they saying is small. So, وإيمان بالنجوم وتقديرها من خصائص عبادته, and to believe in, to have iman in the stars, like we just mentioned, those concepts that are only for Allah, you give it to the stars. When those concepts and those beliefs are something that are specific for Allah Azza wa Jal, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy on us. And I know sometimes I get a little, hype or whatever, but this is how I talk. I'm sorry. That's my speech. That's how I talk. So, I'm not ashamed of where I'm from and how I talk neither. So, but at the end of the day, that's the belief system. And I try to make it simple because I know I'm talking to my people in America. You know what I'm saying? So I try to talk so they can understand me. So that is shirk. And now the next class will be, not today, will be اتباع على عرافة الوكهانة ومخبرين بالمغيبات كفر. We will go into those who believe in the soothsayers and the magicians and the palm readers and these different types of people. And those who inform you about the unseen affairs, this is major kufr. That will be the next chapter. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, forgive me if I said anything wrong. It's from the shaitan. Anything that was correct and just is from Allah Azza wa Jal. And I ask Allah to forgive us all for our sins. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.